Cognitive behavioral therapy is fundamentally based on 4 key principles. These principles shaped the entire process into what it is today, providing people everywhere with the skills necessary to ensure that they're able to get whatever relief from the mental health symptoms they desire. These 4 principles, a focus on the present, brief, active, and goal-oriented, combine to create a fantastic therapy that has been adapted and modified endlessly, creating a therapy that is beneficial for almost anyone. Take a look at the 4 principles mentioned and familiarize yourself with them. All 4 will come into play as you go through the cognitive behavioral therapy process on your own or with a therapist of your own. Focused on the present. The first aspect of cognitive behavioral therapy is the fact that it is present-focused. As you learn the process, you will become familiarized with the fact that cognitive behavioral therapy does not necessarily concern itself with the root cause of the original manifestation of a distressing symptom, and instead focuses more on the symptoms present at any given time. While it is important to recognize what caused a symptom originally, ultimately, knowing the root cause will not enable a fix unless you have developed a time machine that you have not shared with the rest of the world yet. Many other psychotherapies would have focused specifically on that monumental occasion, focusing on the cause of the first iteration of the symptom that is still giving you grief now. However, cognitive behavioral therapy recognizes that the trauma, or whatever else it was that caused your initial onset of symptoms, is important, but what is more important is what is actively triggering your outbreaks now. When you understand what is currently triggering you, you are able to make appropriate adjustments to current thoughts and feelings to avoid future instances of being triggered. You will be able to make any changes necessary, and in doing so, you are able to ensure that you can mitigate future outbursts. Brief. Next, cognitive behavioral therapy is brief. It is incredibly brief for what it is. The average cognitive behavioral therapy treatment is, on average, 12 sessions long, with some lasting as little as 6. Many other forms of psychotherapy take years in comparison to get the same result. The reason cognitive behavioral therapy is so effective at getting through the process while leaving lasting results is that cognitive behavioral therapy makes it a point to teach skills. Rather than slowly guiding the individual through solving each and every problem that comes his or her way, the therapist focuses on developing problem-solving skills that can be used in a wide range of situations. These skills can be used to fix most of the problems that the patient is likely to encounter, and in doing it this way, the patient ensures that he or she is capable of handling nearly anything life throws at him or her. Of course, not everything will always be able to be handled by the methods taught, and in those instances, it is, of course, encouraged to return to the therapist for more skills. Sometimes you will not have the skill you need, but most of the time you will. Because cognitive behavioral therapy focuses on that sort of action plan, it is able to avoid becoming a constant trap in which symptoms repeatedly arise, and the only way the patient can solve them is through more therapy. Of course, the more therapy, the more lucrative for the therapist, but ultimately, the effectiveness of cognitive behavioral therapy is incredibly attractive to insurance companies and individuals who are paying out of pockets themselves. Active. Cognitive behavioral therapy is also active, meaning it focuses almost entirely on doing things that would change the thoughts, feelings, behaviors cycle that was previously mentioned. In being active, the patient is primarily responsible for the setting of a goal and actively striving to achieve it. They are doing this through the process of setting a goal in order to encourage them and following through to see the desired changes. Rather than talking through feelings, cognitive behavioral therapy patients make real changes to their perceptions and actions in the world around them. They're able to encourage meaningful changes that enable them to be far more productive and capable of success in society than people who instead focus on other forms of psychotherapy. For example, if you have a major phobia of dogs, cognitive behavioral therapy will not spend time talking about why you are afraid of dogs, beyond maybe a brief question to discover if there is some trauma related to it, or if you simply are afraid of dogs and their big fangs. When it is identified that you are simply afraid of dogs for no particular reason, cognitive behavioral therapy moves on to creating action plans for you that will benefit you. Through these action plans, you are able to better strive for the results you want, which in this case is to be able to see a dog without immediately freaking out. You develop a method to ground yourself when you feel your phobia taking over and encouraging your fear behaviors. You develop some affirmations to remind yourself that fear is not necessary and that dogs are not all scary. You go through several rounds of exposure therapy, adjusting you to the presence of dogs and really enforcing that dogs are not terrifying and that your perception is skewed. You will go through various rounds of cognitive restructuring that will enable you to better understand that dogs are not, in fact, terrifying killing machines that need to be avoided. Through this active approach from all angles, you are able to defeat your phobia of dogs with relative ease compared to other methods. Goal orientation. This has already been briefly touched upon, but cognitive behavioral therapy is also primarily goal-oriented. This means that patients are always striving toward a goal of some sort. Perhaps the biggest component of the cognitive behavioral therapy process is identifying a goal that drives you forward, encouraging you to work toward bettering yourself in some way, whether it is learning to understand and overcome your current fears, or to somehow stop having constant anger outbursts. Goals enable you to tackle thoughts and behaviors with ease, recognizing that feelings are not appropriate goals to set. These goals also enable you to measure your process as you go, creating a real, tangible guide to how far you have managed to come with the process you are attempting to learn. Through cognitive behavioral therapy, you learn to create SMART goals, meaning they're specific, measured, achievable, relevant, and timely, all of which will be discussed later. When you use this structure for goals, you are able to ensure that the goals you are setting are structured in a way that you will be able to follow with relative ease. These goals give you tangible evidence that you are, in fact, making progress, and sometimes that evidence is all you need to encourage yourself to continue moving forward in the difficult process of cognitive restructuring.